Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. Today we're going to talk about the big week coming up as we host the Dallas Cowboys on prime time Sunday Night Football. And then we're going to discuss the Flyers' successful West Coast road trip, all that and much more here on Sports Talk Philly.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Once again, thank you for tuning in. Alongside Sam Long, Sam Brown, and Chris Forsyth, I'm your host, Josh Abrams, back from the dead. And looks like the Eagles are going to be back from the dead, hopefully, after a pretty iffy first half of the season. We host the rival Dallas Cowboys this weekend. And, guys, it was a pretty boring weekend in terms of NFL. We weren't able to watch our Eagles. But what did we learn from this weekend from the rest of the games that we watched?
Saints are now the scariest team in the NFL.
And just because you're the Super Bowl champions one year, that does not correspond to the following season. And the Eagles learned that lesson probably harder than any other team might have learned it.
So watching these other games, we saw the Falcons go in, and theoretically we saw both NFC East teams that played this weekend get absolutely destroyed on their home turfs. Does this just make this week even more of a lock for you guys?
I think it does. I think it's a perfect game to start the second half of the season on. I mean, what more could you want? Dallas at home, night game, all black, just to get the wheels going.
Yeah, definitely, and definitely helps that we're coming off of a 2-week rest period too,
and not just a 2-week rest period, but it was a 2-week rest period where the Eagles really were given some blessings that they need to capitalize on the advantages they were given, having had that week off.
Yeah, after making some moves on the bye week, it seems like they're going to be going into this Dallas game. Hopefully they have some new strengths, some players coming off injuries. I think it could be a really big turnaround for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and this is definitely, as you guys said, a great way to start the second half. Looking at the key matchups here, this Eagles team we know for sure is a lot different than last year. We're not this team that just gets off to early first quarter leads. I think a lot of us remember the Eagles putting away teams early. We were confident by the first half that we were going to win this game, but the team is obviously struggling to put up points. You guys briefly talked about it last week as it was developing, but now that it's sat in for a week, how does it feel having another dynamic player on this offense in Golden Tate?
I think it's perfect, being that, well, at the time Lane Johnson was supposed to be out for this game, but he's being Lane Johnson and just playing right through the injury. It'll help spread out the field more for Ertz, Aguilar, and Jeffrey, and I just think that since he runs those really short routes, it's really perfect for what's going on with the offensive line.
And Carson Wentz having another weapon with a veteran wide receiver really helps in that it'll get the offense going, and it'll be a chance. It'll be someone that the younger players can look up to and emulate in that regard.
It seems as if the Eagles kind of have a knack of taking old receivers like Alshon Jeffrey and Golden Tate and putting him into the system, seeing how it works out. I'm not a huge fan of the Golden Tate trade. He's 30 years old. He might have 2-3 years left in his prime. It's a temporary fix getting him for a solution that didn't need fixing.
Yeah, it certainly sparks different reactions from everybody. But I personally feel good about it just because he's experienced. He's a Super Bowl winner. He can do it all basically, and I think this is really going to help Doug be really creative with the offense. But let's talk about the defense real quick, guys, because we know how dominant we are up front, and for the most part in our back three in terms of linebackers. We know how shaky our cornerbacks are, but the emergence of Timmy Jernigan now finally being able to play, being able to practice, we're most likely going to see him this weekend. And how do you guys feel about that? How is he going to improve our defense this week?
The youth he's got is really going to help out. Having that energy on the field, he'll be playing excited to be back, and it'll be great for the Eagles in stopping the run game.
Yeah, I agree with other Sam. His 2016 and 2017 stats were good. I believe in 2017 he had 5 sacks on the season, and 2016 I think he had 4. Hopefully getting him back and help us take down Dak a few times.
Yeah, no, I think, like Sam said, the infusion of youth that he brings. I mean, Fletcher's still young, but Haloti Ngata's, we all know what Haloti Ngata is. He's old, but I think the energy he's going to bring, just his pure size, is just going to help so much because he's just a massive human being.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely, and I think having just adding another piece to that defensive line, especially after Derek Barnett going down, that was just a real tough injury that we all had to deal with. But definitely getting him back is going to help pad our depth on the D line. But we got to talk about another player that's been with us for a couple years now, and we've talked about the struggles of Jason Peters, and this guy is certainly similar in Darren Sproles. We saw this week that he was expected to play. He had been dealing with a hamstring injury since about week 2 or so early in the season. But now we just learned in the past couple of hours that he re-aggravated that hamstring injury, and while it won't cause him to land on the injured reserve, it is enough to keep him out for this weekend. So just talk about what's the future like, especially a short future for Darren Sproles.
Yeah, so I wish that Darren Sproles retired last year. He breaks my heart this season. Just seeing him, after what he did for us last year, seeing him just re-aggravate an injury, getting hurt so early, it's terrible. It's not fun to watch.
I think are we all on the same page with that?
He paid his dues to the city here. I think keeping him around and him playing just for the sake of playing is not good for him. It's not good for the team. So I think that he ought to just sit the rest of the season.
I agree with both of them. I think he was it's just kind of like not to be offensive towards Darren because we all know how good he is. But at this point, him playing one game, first game of the year, it's kind of like a waste of a roster spot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people definitely feel that way, and we know what he's done. I think he's like top 10 all time in terms of all-purpose yards. He's had an amazing career, but it may be time to call it quits at this point. But let's talk about the upcoming game, guys, because we're facing yet another top running back. The NFC East, the two halves, especially the lower halves at least, consist of great running backs, and we face Ezekiel Elliott for the first time this season. We talk about how great our rush defense is, #1 in the league last year. But do you guys see any extra or reoccurring concerns with having to face Zeke?
Not at all. I mean, he might get 100 yards. He might score a touchdown.
He's going to get his.
Yeah, he'll get what Zeke gets. But in like the outcome of a game, I mean, he'll score like once every 2 weeks for them, and
it's almost like a non-factor.
Yeah, I mean, Dak's not going to do anything, so we're going to be fine.
Well, he's really the only weapon that Dak uses, and whenever Dak performs, it's because of Zeke. So that's the only thing I have reservations about, but I think that the Eagles will play some solid defense and be able to shut down this Cowboys team.
Now, I'm not as scared as Zeke as I was as Saquon. What week did we play the Giants?
It was like week 5. Yeah, week 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah, but I am very scared of Amari Cooper against our secondary, and I have it written down here. 2016, Amari Cooper finished the season with 1,153 yards and 5 touchdowns. In the right system, he's an incredible wide receiver, 2-time Pro Bowler. I don't think Dak can throw to him, but he has 21 catches of over 20 yards. I think we should be scared of him.
Yeah, and then that's definitely reasonable given how shaky our secondary is. And another player to look out for is DeMarcus Lawrence. The young defensive end for the Cowboys is starting to emerge. He had a career high, I think it was 14.5 sacks last year, and he's already looks like he's on pace to either tie that or break it just slightly. Given how inconsistent our running game has been, I just don't see. I don't see the running game working out for the Eagles just simply because of that presence on the end in DeMarcus Lawrence. But let's get into our picks, guys. We're running out of time here. I think we're all feeling optimistic this week. Yeah. We saw how bad Tennessee beat the Cowboys. I have the Eagles winning 35-21. I think it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be a struggle. Dallas may have the lead for a little bit, but in the second half, the Eagles should pick it up, and I think Nigel Bradham should play a huge part in sacking Dak Prescott. So let's get into your guys.
I have the Eagles taking the game 30-9. In 2017, they won 37-9. I'm going to take off a touchdown. I think Alshon's going to have a good game. I do not think this is going to be the Golden Tate show. I think he's going to total maybe 110 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And I went 30-21. I went a little more conservative, but I chose Dallas Goedert as my MVP because Zach Ertz does make a lot of great catches, and I said on another episode that Carson Wentz does love to utilize his tight ends, but the difference between Ertz and Goedert is that Goedert picks up a lot more yards after catches, which is going to be crucial to beating this Cowboys team.
And Chris, your pick.
I took it 38-14. I went with the blowout here. I think this is going to be like one of Carson Wentz's trademark games, like 400 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to get to him, even with DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah,
and it certainly doesn't help that the Cowboys have just been inconsistent. They've been about as inconsistent of a team as you can possibly get. But we're going to hope and assume that we get a big win this weekend. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the black and orange. Stay tuned.
This is Kevin, and Kevin could use some kindness. Here's Ian. He could be that man. Ian chooses to be inconsiderate and not hold the door for Kevin, and in turn, Kevin suffers. Kindness may be a choice, but doing so is always the right one. So if Ian can make the right choice, you can too.
Tell me you didn't watch the Phillies game last night.
You know, unfortunately I did, and it was just so heartbreaking to see the first 8 batters strike out.
Drew hasn't done anything for this organization.
I'm confused. You're doing an internship in sort of marketing and production, right?
I really can't believe that Ben Simmons won't be dropping 3s on the court this year.
Hey, Tanya, I know you're really busy, but could you tell me who the Sixers play on October 28th? Doctor, in order for the Eagles to win this week, they're going to need 250 passing yards from Carson Wentz. We're going to need 100 yards rushing. I don't care who it is. We're going to need a lot of good production from our tight end and wide receivers. And I'm going to need 5 interceptions from Malcolm Jenkins. Yeah, Mom, look, I know the money situation isn't good right now, but I promise you Travis Konechny's going to have a breakout year.
Hey, I declined to the top of Mount Everest to find Nick Pavetta's ERA.
Sports Talk Philadelphia. We talk nothing but sports all the time.
And welcome back from the commercial break. Chris steps down for Flyers Talk, and we bring in Tyler Small, who did a great job filling in for me last week. Thank you for joining us. All right, guys, let's get right into it. The Flyers have really shut me up this weekend. 3-0-1 on this West Coast road trip. Just a truly remarkable 7 points that we were able to pick up. As you see, we scored 16 goals, finally putting the puck in the net consistently, it looks like. There was a little obstacle in San Jose that I wish we could have came out on top. But nevertheless, how do you guys feel about the Flyers now compared to last week when we were so iffy about them?
Yeah, when we did the show last week, I was angry about the Flyers, and I agree. They shut me up by really stepping up this week and putting the puck in the net when they needed to, and they were getting contributions from players that don't normally do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Thanks. So I was not expecting the win against the Sharks to be as close as it was. What was it, 4-3?
4-3.
In
overtime.
In overtime, especially after the season opener. We played them in the season
opener,
and they blew us out?
Correct.
Yeah,
that shouldn't have been
that.
Started, So that definitely made it seem a lot better. Like for a great road stretch, where I said in previous episodes that West Coast hockey is very hard to play with, but especially with the last game beating 5-2 the Coyotes, who were on a 6-game winning streak. I think that's huge. I think that it was a sloppy win. It was sloppy both sides, but definitely proves a lot for the Flyers so far.
Yeah, I did not know they were on a 6-game winning streak. I usually don't think of the Coyotes being that good of a team.
So far, yeah.
Yeah, and certainly I guess hockey is one of those sports where we talk about all the time how anything can happen. We've seen 8 seeds make it all the way to the cup, win the cup. It's really unpredictable. But as you said, Sam, about contributions from players that we usually don't see contributions from, we need more of that on a consistent basis if we want to keep winning games, right?
Yeah, especially from the young guys like Oscar Lindblom and Nolan Patrick, who really played well this past week. As you can see, they each had 6 points on the road trip. Putting up points like that really helps out the veteran players.
Yeah, and they have 8 points each on the season, so I think just going off your point, that's going to be great to assist them with the seasons that, with Giroux and Voracek, who have had pretty solid seasons, but somebody like Cordier, who has kind of struggled so far, he only has 7 points so far, so you need those rookies or those young bloods really boosting your team.
Anything else on the odd contributions?
Yeah. So coaching. The Blackhawks recently fired their coach. Some off-season moves. Maybe we should bring him in. What do you think?
I mean, I've been ready for Haxtell to leave for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think it's
Anything's an option, really. You can't rule anything out.
So Quinville, he coached the Blackhawks for 11 seasons. In that 11-season stretch, he's bought them 10 postseasons, 5 Western Conferences, not winning all of them, and 3 Stanley Cup wins. Now, that's a lot more.
And that came in a 5-year span, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
one of them against the Flyers.
Yeah, still bitter about that. Because we haven't made it back. We haven't made it back to the Stanley Cup since. But with the normal contributions we get from Drew and Voracek and Couturier and Simmons, this team, especially looking at the way that they performed this weekend, the fact that they were able to go out on the road and get these much needed points, I think this team shows stretches where they look so promising. They look like a well-established team with a clump of veterans and guys who have been on the team for so long, with a mixture of young guys who we drafted, brought up through the farm system. This team always looks like, for certain periods of time, that they're set up for success. But the one thing that always brings them back is either inconsistent defensive play or just the goaltending situation.
Yeah, and when a team plays as inconsistently as the Flyers do, it's really difficult to judge whether or not this team is contenders or not. And unfortunately, the way that seasons have played out over the past couple of years, they've shown not to be contenders, and in some cases, not even reaching the playoffs. So I don't know what to. It's still early in the season, but I don't know what to say. Are they good? Are they bad? What's gonna happen from here on out if they keep playing like they're playing?
I must say, it did take them 13, 14 games to finally lose an overtime game. In a way, for me, that's kind of a positive. I don't know about you guys. That's a little specific, but what do you guys think?
Just like they've always had, just as you said, kind of like a streaky nature, and it's just always how they've been. And as I said it before, they really did have a sloppy defensive game. They had a lot of turnovers deep in their own ice. Their goalie situation still is up in the air. But honestly, looking at last night, there was a lot of mistakes from the defense, and Pickard picked them up every time. I have been very impressed by Pickard so far this season. He's 3-1. He's averaging more. He's given up more than 1 goal, more than Elliott is per game, almost giving up 4. But I still think that I prefer him over Elliott so far this season. Wouldn't say for the whole year.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at the goaltending situation again, Michael Neuvirth probably isn't going to play again for us this season. I just think, given his injury history, as you see on the graphic there, I think the undisclosed part is really kind of making me more angry than normal, because I know it's not news to see undisclosed injury, upper body injury, lower body injury.
You almost forget he's on the lineup sometimes.
Yeah.
You almost forget that he's even there, because he's almost like a Darren Sproles. He's still there, but you don't even know what he's doing.
Except 10 years younger too.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, of course.
And also the fact that the injury is undisclosed, it really makes it difficult to tell when's he coming back, if he's coming back, and what's going on with this guy, and what are the Flyers going to do in that time. I know they recalled Alex Lyon, but the other unfortunate part is that Brian Elliott's not healthy, not exactly healthy either. So, like we've been saying, the goalie situation's never good, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Brian Elliott didn't play on Monday, right? He was out, I believe. He took a puck to the head from Voracek during practice on Sunday when they were expecting him to be concussed, but he's able to play in the upcoming games. So hopefully he tries to be a little more consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like these injuries that we're seeing during practice are kind of starting to become more prevalent, and not just in hockey or Philly sports.
Muscala yesterday is done for a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
That's practice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's some bad mojo. I don't really understand it, but I think really Pickard's our goalie. He should be. If given what we just talked about with Neuwirth, comparing him to Darren Sproles, Brian Elliott not being healthy, this guy seems to be ready to go every game. So I think really we should consider him as our starting goalie. But looking at the upcoming schedule, guys, it's never easy. It just never is. But luckily we're staying on the East Coast this week for the most part, except for Chicago. Looking at that schedule, we got a key divisional matchup in a couple days. Looking at the near schedule, the stuff that we can control this week, how do you guys feel about the schedule, how the Flyers can build off of this West Coast road trip?
Hopefully that momentum that they had on the West Coast road trip carries over to home. They haven't played exactly great at home throughout the season, and all of these teams that they're playing against, except for Florida, have either an equal number of points or the same number of points as the Flyers do. So it's time to step it up this week.
Yeah, definitely even matchups. I think the Devils and Lightning are going to be a tough back-to-back. They're both very similar teams, both very similar to the Flyers, just like you said, but they're on a good hot streak right now, so hopefully they can keep rolling.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this Blackhawk game. They're 6-6 at the moment, I believe. The Flyers are 7-7. It should be pretty even.
Yeah, so it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. And then I want to kind of bring back up the coaching standpoint again. We've talked about Dave Haxtell a lot. I think this is a make or break. Can we all agree that this is a make or break season for Dave Haxtell?
It has to be. Without any production in the playoffs for any job in the end, or in any sport, really, you have to do something in the playoffs to keep your job.
I agree. The only thing that I think was keeping him here is that him and Hextall, I think they work really well together, but the issue is that they're not really answering to anyone right now. So if things don't go well this season, I'd like to see Hextall gone and Hextall gone probably as well, but I'm not sure what's going to happen.
It's just it's a big question mark. I think given the successful road trip that we just had, the Flyers to me are still kind of a big question mark, especially when we know what the Eagles are made of, we know what the Sixers are turning into, but the Flyers just seem to have the same team every year, and they just can't seem to produce. Looking at the short future, what specific player, if you were to just think of one off the top of your head, who are you looking for to step up again, or a new emergence?
I'm looking for Couturier to continue to break out. I think he's due for some points, and at home is the best place to get them.
Yeah, I'm hoping Drew keeps his hot streak of scoring going. Maybe we can net a few more points in this East Coast matchup.
I would love to see Hart finally come into goal and be a consistent goalie. Somebody in there. He hasn't played yet in the NHL, but I think he's going to come up and he's going to be someone.
Yeah, and
with this great offense.
Carter Hart is going to be hopefully positively a talking point of our Flyers segments for the rest of the season and for the rest of the year. So we're hoping to see him soon. We're hoping for a successful Flyers turnout within the next week. Let's move on to Fast Five. And Sam Long, I'm going to come to you with an Eagles question. Over under 2.5 picks from Dak Prescott.
Over 3 picks,
Okay.
under 5 picks. I'm thinking 4 picks.
Okay, yeah, so somewhere in there. Sam Brown, we're going to come to you with a Phillies question. The buzz the past week has been about Bryce Harper. It seems to everybody that he's a lock to sign with the Phillies. How do you feel about that?
I'm excited for him to come here. They need his bat. They need his glove. They can move a lot of players around and they can work around some contracts, but right now it's bring in Bryce Harper first and figure out the rest later.
Tyler, we're going to come to you. I was kind of creeping in on your your rant about Duke. Can anyone stop Duke's men's basketball team?
It's only been one game. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but that was one of the most dominating performances I've ever against number 4 Kentucky.
Yeah.
To see the hype from Zion Williamson come out, see R.J. Barrett, who's even a higher pick overall on this team than him. He's supposed to go number 1 in the draft next year because it's almost guaranteed they're going to be one and dones, all of them. But
yeah,
I think this year is going to be special.
And don't forget about Cam Reddish either. He's
dropped 22 points.
Yeah, he's a local guy too. He went to the Westtown school, so he's from around the Philly area. I definitely agree with you that it is a little early. Don't like getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah, Duke.
But that was
Duke is
special.
I mean, people were trying to talk about Duke being a most talented team of all time. Yeah. So we'll have to see about that. Sam Brown, we're coming back to you. You know, looking at the division for the Flyers, nobody's really established themselves yet, especially the Flyers. So who do you think who's your favorite to win the Metro Division?
I hate to say it, but I think the New Jersey Devils take the Metro Division this year. Just Taylor Hall's coming off an MVP season, and they have some solid defense, and Will Butcher and some solid, or I should say their goaltending's not stellar, but it'll get the job done for them, and I think that the Devils come all the way back and take number 1.
Yeah, and hopefully the Flyers aren't too far behind them. And then last but not least, Sam Long. You know, we saw an amazing Rams Saints game this weekend.
Yeah.
We play both of them at some point. What team are you most scared of?
So if you asked me any week before this one, I could have said I'm scared of the Rams, I'm scared of the Chiefs. It could have been a toss-up, but seeing the Chiefs letting up 21 points to the Browns, disappointing. But
Yeah.
I think the Saints are going to take it. Scariest team now.
Yeah, and they just cannot be beat at home. So I think you have a really great point there. So that's going to wrap it up for Sports Talk Philly. We thank you again for tuning in. You can catch us on social media on Facebook, YouTube, LaSalle.edu/LaSalleTV. It is all up there. Once again, we thank you guys for tuning in. We are hoping for a crushing defeat on the Cowboys this weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend, homecoming at LaSalle. We hope you guys enjoy your weekend and tune in next week. Thank you very much.